Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.
Budget for finance.
On the website, there's only 4 people listed, so I think it's you, Leon, and Susan.
Okay, so we're good. We'll start with agenda 1, public comments. We need to have a motion for the minutes for January 5th should be.
I'll make that.
Second. Yeah, second.
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Action item 3, MAU FY 24 budget discussion.
Okay. Pull up my split screens here. So draft 3, that was posted yesterday. I did go ahead and email that out just in case people didn't see it with the agenda for this afternoon. A couple of things that have changed. I did meet with administrators. Tony D'Onofrio did have a couple of spots that he found one mistake that he had put 2 projects in. One project in twice. So we flipped that. That was, I want to say $30,000. 2 lines for oil, one at the middle school, one at the high school. There is some work underway right now to actually transition their domestic hot water fuel source from oil to wood chips. So facilities is forecasting a decrease in oil usage going forward once that transition happens. So Tony had asked to double his oil budget for both campuses, and it ended up actually he was closer to triple. So we actually scaled that back to double. So that's part of that $100,000. And then he had tree removals at the high school, maybe the big pine trees and courtyard. Something he said that he's going to work with forestry at CDC to have that work done. So that was $25,000 that came out of grounds work at the high school. So what I have pulled up here is just the category side with the narrative, and to help folks out, if you're looking online, any changes from a previous draft I have from the previous draft is in blue italics, depending upon what board I'm working with. If there were multiple rounds, they're still italics, but the most recent are in blue italics. So we had facilities changes. I met with our payroll and human resources department to kind of go through some of the clubs that are running this year, just confirm and update my roster to make sure that I had everything. So I had a bunch of clubs included in the budget that have not run in years. So we've pulled that back. And then I made a minor adjustment to the pole vault mats. We have them in at 30 to 23. We're thinking they're going to be less than 20, but just put a cushion in that's the case. So those are really the tweaks that we made to the kind of the nuts and bolts of the MAU budget. And then I went ahead and updated the assessments, and that's where things really shifted. And mainly because of special education, we do have a decrease in spending projected for next year. And we also have a pretty significant fund balance that we're carrying in, which is helping to offset those costs. So when you look at just the assessment line, You can see it's a decrease of over $500,000 from what it is this year. So that really swings the pendulum from a 7% increase to like less than 1/4% increase. It's massive. Just the way it worked out this year. So just with those couple of changes, and I did the 6-semester rolling FTE average did come in from the Agency of Education, and as soon as it came out, they said there was a problem with it, and they haven't sent us a revision yet. So I went with what I have. The FTE was down slightly, so that's a net reduction in our costs to Southwest Tech. On the, you know what, I'm sorry, I've got copies here that I didn't hand out to everybody. I'm just thinking I sent it out so everybody has it. Okay. You're good, yes, yes. So the first page is the category. The next 2 pages is the narrative to go along with the category. Those of you that are looking online will then have in that packet goes into the breakdown by department or function along with that associated narrative. And then you get to the revenue page. I think there was only one thing I changed on here. We actually do have a couple of the bonds that were refinanced, so there's a small. Yeah, proceeds from bonds from multiple year loans. We will have 8250 coming in next year. So I went ahead and put that in for offsetting revenue and using the full amount of the fund balance to then kick us into the estimated tax calculation. Looks quite a bit different than when I looked at it the first time. I have not received any more updates to equalized pupils, so all those numbers are the same. What you're seeing, or actually what I have labeled in your packet as Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District Draft 3, that's actually final. They did approve that last night, so that is as it is. North Bennington is actually their draft 1, so that still needs to be updated to their draft 3, so that's not actually current at present. I can get those figures for you. So again, just when we blend the 2 rates together, I mean, we were looking at increases across the board, mainly due to, well, where we were with budget, but then also just the decrease in common level of appraisals for all of our municipalities are incredibly low. Particularly North Bennington is below 70% now. So actually with the update to their budget and their assessments, I think they're less than a 4-cent increase right now. Just to give you a perspective on what you're seeing here. So without any further changes, if everything were to be set tonight, SVSU was approved last night, so the assessments that are there are good. Pretty much looking at potential tax decreases across the board with the exception of Woodford is just about a penny increase. I recognize that it may look like, well, wow, almost 4 cents or 12 cents in Pownell. Maybe we should put some of that fund balance aside for future use. I wouldn't recommend it just because of how volatile things could very easily become if they change that property yield. So right now, the property yield that the tax commissioner recommended is the 15,479. I've never seen this before, so kudos to MAU. You're actually below $1. So your education spending for equalized people is less than that. So I I think there are gonna be demands on that money, so that's assuming that that full $60 million plus in surplus in the ed fund right now stays with the ed fund. I think there may be, other uses, legislators might have other ideas, and the governor has other ideas, what they might use that money for. Universal meals, if they continue that for another year, they're gonna have to have some way of funding of that, so that might be a source. So even if they change that by a few $100s, that's gonna change all of those potential tax decreases to either level or increases. So because we have no control over that, I think you have a safety net right now, so if it does drop, you're not gonna look at an increase that you can't control, right? And we've never seen it so high, so just to give you guys, like, this year, I think the final number came is 13.3. So that's what the yield is for this year, so that's how high it's jumped. 13.314, I'm pretty sure is what,
Somebody say it could swing to grand or
even if it goes $400, so even if it goes to 15,000, you're gonna see tax increases across the board except for Pownell, because they're the ones that have like the greatest, they had the least decrease in their CLA.
are you concerned, I mean, so we still have the million from last year, correct?
Okay.
And so are you concerned, I know that you don't have a crystal ball, but that if we decided to not to like capitalize on this and push it through, assuming that there's no, based on these numbers, that there's not going to actually be decreases, are you concerned that next year they could put this through this year and it'd be fine, and next year they could knock it down significantly and we could be, I mean, personally, part of me wouldn't mind having a little bit budgeted in so that we could help manage like extreme fluctuation in the future for the taxpayers with those funds, but I know that you don't have, I mean, any way of knowing that, do you? I mean, I'd like to see, part of like, it's great to go out and tell everyone that we're going to drop property tax rates, but if next year we triple it because of things that we don't have control over,
Yeah, and you're kind of, you have to realize too that you only can control what you control, which is only a portion of it, right? So
Yeah.
half, give or take, depending upon, which town you live in. So in looking at the spending for the SVU ESD, you can see that their education spending for equalized people is considerably higher.
Yeah, I don't know if I should feel proud about how low our spending is per pupil but can I ask just one more question that I know that you touched upon the two things that I was reviewing the changes, you touched upon the $75,000 and I think like the maintenance, that was what you were talking about.
It's 100 total.
Okay,
And then when you look at it broken out between the functions, it's 75 in one and 25 in the other, so 26.
okay. But there was another note of 100, so is that is that also is that the same note that's highlighted that says refinements in both middle school and high school budgets? Okay, that's the same money? Okay.
Same money, just a different way that the budget's been kind of broken out for review, so it's by function instead of by the budget category.
So based on the conversations we had at the last meeting to now, we didn't go through and chop other, people's.
We discussed it, and Chris felt strongly about the positions that he was asking for, so we didn't make any changes. And I don't want to speak for you, Chris, but I know you kind of have to prioritize things that if you're, asked to make a cut, he potentially offered something, but he doesn't want to.
Whenever you're ready, I don't know, I'll start with the, I looked at fund balance and the fund balance reduction reserve. Could you,
What page are you on there?
well, I got page, there's no page numbers on it, so I put page numbers
Revenue
on it
page.
for the last.
You're at the revenue page, okay.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to understand, we lost $750,000 out of that. And why we took that out. In terms of what are the ways we could have done something that said we took the money out and put it, to reduce down the numbers that we got for the budget, as opposed to that money going somewhere. So what I want to know is, what do we normally do with a fund balance in the reserve when we have that amount of money, as opposed to what we did here in this case, of just taking it out and saying, I'm going to reduce down the budget and I'm not going to change anything in that category of items that everybody want. I'm just going to take money from the fund balance and do that.
So by law, we're required to use that fund balance to offset tax burden in the following year unless the voters have authorized us to use that fund balance for something else. So with that ballot article we had a couple of years ago, the board now has the authority to review that fund balance on an annual basis and determine whether or not they want to take any of that and allocate it to a reserve account. We did that last year, which dropped our fund balance to 2.7 million. So going into this year, technically it went up $200,000.
$200,000. So we're essentially like, we didn't spend 200,000 of something that, or we had 200,000 more revenue this year than we had anticipated.
Yeah.
So if you net the 3.7 million and the million that we moved into that reserve, that's lower than what going forward.
But then the course said, well, we just take it and move it. You said the board approved the taking of the $757,000 out and putting it over there just to reduce
That's the variance.
down. That's the variance total. Yes. And I'm saying, that's the difference in terms of,
From this year to what we're
Yeah.
budgeting for next year.
that's exactly right. And so I'm saying, what if we didn't have that variance and that stayed back over there?
I can't increase it because I don't have any available funds. So 2.9 million is the maximum amount of money that you have as offsetting revenue from a fund balance right now, unless you wanted to tap into that million that you put aside last year, which I wouldn't recommend doing either, but that's just my recommendation, to keep that at 3.7.
We want,
No, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that we were doing the right thing with that money along that line of taps. Now, I'm gonna go back to, the things that we said that were in there, and I said we weren't gonna live with that percentage. But there are some jobs that we're trying to place in this budget that I'm having a hard time with. And I start out with a bulletin coordinator. I never heard of such a thing in terms of staffing somebody for a position or something along that line. We have the opportunity to either temporarily sign somebody to do something or just name somebody and pay them and put them in a position to do a particular job like that. So I'm having a hard time trying to sell those things to the voters or anybody.
are you referring to the athletic director position or the?
There's one, that's,
The administrative coordinator for the board of investigations.
I mean,
so I'm just saying, I have a hard time with that.
I would have a
What
very.
I know what we want to do, and I know this at the time that we're saying these things are out there, but we got to live with that. If that was, you're saying, it's a temporary job, a temporary assignment or something to do what you really want to have done to try to understand the job, would probably go over. But to say, I'm going to put a permanent person in there and we can't get rid of that person next year or that position, I got problems with those things
Is that,
because they don't.
So,
is it a CBA, is it a collective bargaining unit position or is it an administrative position?
it's an administrative position, correct?
It's a support position, so I don't even have it tied to,
Are you talking about the HHP
yeah.
coordinator for lack of a better word?
So we consider it to be a non-CBA. It's kind of a unique like anomaly, right? It's not
But
It's
it's
not
written in, correct me if I'm wrong, it's written as an administrative position, correct?
An administration coordinator, so not an administrator.
Understood. So, Leon, you had a request, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but you had requested the last meeting, to see some data. So I did come prepared with that, and I'm ready to share that. Would now be an okay time to go into that?
But these things are still on the line, but for that, yeah, because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and.
Would you like to see the information that he brought?
Or,
What your question?
part of the job is to see data and print stuff, yeah.
So, but why don't we take the opportunity while we're on it to.
So I can share that, and I respectfully, I want to say that I think that if we're going to have continue to have our schools more successful, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to request that are much different. I recognize that, and that would be my lead in, like, schools are not the same, our schools are run essentially the same as they were 100 years ago. We're in different times, and there's going to be different requests if I'm going to run it successfully. But I do think it's a very fair
I think
request.
you agree with that.
And I understand your request about seeing the data. That's a very fair request. So I did a little homework on that. So basically what I did is I explained last time at the meeting, it can be difficult to boil it down just to HHB, like confirmed HHB cases, because a lot of the reports that come in that we have to investigate, they're not necessarily always hazing, harassment, or bullying. They might be inappropriate, mean things that are said. Sometimes there's consequences that need to happen. There's restorative practices that need to happen, but they're not always hazing, harassment, or bullying. But with that being said, we spend a lot of time investigating those situations. All right, so I broke it down into a couple different things. So basically, I've talked to my admin team, and an average investigation, per incident can take place anywhere from a couple hours to several hours, 2 to 4 hours. I boiled it down to. This includes like victim statements, witness statements, the aggressor statements, sometimes video research with our camera system, sometimes bus videos, coordination with parents. If you get to an actual HHB case, there's letters and documentation that has to happen. So far this year, this is from August 31st, 2022 to yesterday. We've investigated 137 complaints at the school. So I've equated that to approximately about 275 hours of work from the admin team. That's based on the minimum of a 2-hour. So figured some of them are a little less than that, and some of them are definitely more than that. So I went with the 2 hours. That's 274 hours it comes to. Total out of those, to my point at the last meeting, and I knew the data would support, what I was saying, that the total found HHB that were true HHB situations was 23 out of the 137. 4 of them were bullying, 8 of them were harassment, step 1, so like a first offense harassment. 7 of them were harassment step 2, 4 of them harassment step 3. So that's the breakdown of the HHB, just like kind of pure numbers of what we're working with. And then going back to my CSTAG threat assessment numbers, I counted my file again today and kind of went through everything. We've done 58 CSTAG threat assessments to date, and I really did some work on kind of adding up some of these hours. So this could be anywhere from, I'd say, a minimum of 1 hour for a threat assessment that is a transient threat, a low-level threat. It's it might be as simple as an hour, maybe even a little bit less in some cases. And I've had a couple cases that are well in excess of 20 hours. And I know that I think that's a dramatic understatement for a few of the cases. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about that, but that's what I prepared for tonight to share with you.
I hear you. And the things I agree with you, but the school is changing. And that's what that's what this is all about here, is that the school is changing, but the money that we're having to put toward the school is not changing. It's continuing to rise up And so when you said the responsibilities, and how we do things is antiquated, you're absolutely right. And so and when last time you told me your hands were tired, when you cannot rearrange or try to augment something in a different way because we're tired. But I feel real bad having to pass on these things on to the taxpayer as well, because we say we don't have time to make arrangements and change things.
I'm not sure what you mean about the time.
I think you're referencing, I think I brought up the fact that like, if we were to ask the administrators to, or the superintendent to ask the administrators to evaluate the teaching staff positions to see whether you have too many math teachers, which I doubt you do because we have more people that we're hiring now, and those types of positions, like that process, we would have had to have started as a board prior to this budget process right now. And so that, I don't think we can ask them to do that both contractually and.
Well, that's fine, but now you can start for next year.
I'm not sure how that, I'm
It's so-
struggling to see the connection between that and this. Are we just saying because that would be a different way to save money?
That's another way of managing the job, in which I don't like to get into, because see, it's a sticky slope when you say what I want to do versus pay for it. We manage the money. You and the principals and the superintendent say, this is what I need to put into place out here. So the board says, well, do I need to pay for that? Because you're saying I want it, and I'm saying, well, it may be a need, but it may be another way of achieving that, but I can't manage that with you. I don't want to keep getting into that. I'm trying to say, hey, what I gotta look at and what I'm responsible for, and this board is responsible for, is making sure that we look at all these positions or anything else that come into play that we got to keep passing on to the taxpayer out here. And I'm trying to understand that and trying to get you to understand my feelings, our feelings for the taxpayer, saying, wait a minute, who should be doing something the way you said it? And I'm saying, well, when do you start to try to get that change out here so that we won't be adding on more staff?
I understand where
I'm
Because
not
it's the
sure
same
we could
thing.
ever be in a position, Leon, to tell you that we're not gonna continue to pay more money. An example, I'll give a really crystal clear example. Coming out of COVID, the need for mental health services has increased, right?
Right.
Now the counseling service is understaffed, private practices are booked, you can't get in. And so therefore you have a need at schools to hire more clinicians. So the school district, this board has supported that, hired an additional person.
Right.
Already filled that person with 50 or 60 kids, which is way above what a private practice would take up. Those kids will continue to arrive who need mental health. And so I appreciate the fact that, you want to be fiscally responsible. You don't want to continue to spend money. But what Chris is pointing out, 20 years ago, we didn't have the HHB.
we did 5 years ago.
Families and students talk in this language now. I'm being bullied. I'm being harassed. There is a liability at the school level. If you fail to investigate, we have a different conversation with the board, which is liability. So it comes down to, what do you want your administrators to do? You want to have your principal spending hundreds of hours a year investigating of this, or do you want him to be, or her, building a vision of where the school goes and how school changes, and task that with somebody who's trained, specialty, and perhaps it goes away. I don't know. Maybe we get better and we don't see it, but we have responsibilities. Chris doesn't get to say, I'm not going to do HAB forms. There's timelines and requirements.
Understood all of that. That's not what I'm talking, and that's why I said I can't get in it. You need to do those things, because we're saying these are the things that are required for the students to do, but we are just saying, we'll put another person over here and do that. And I'm saying, wait a minute, take a hard look at that with the superintendent. Say, can this be a temporary study to make sure everything can be managed a certain way without having to put the full load into the budget, that next year, over well, I'm trying not to get out and say something. If next year, if that's not the case, then I have a hard time trying to take a job away from somebody.
Sure.
That's.
Yeah, sorry. Like Jackie and I have a question for Renee when, but.
So,
go
but I
ahead.
just wanted to bring those out. I'm seeing that out here and I'm saying, okay, we keep doing it and the budget is going, constantly going up every year. When you look at 4 or 5 years of trend, yeah, it's going up. And I talked about some other things. So I'm trying to get the board to ask the questions so that we can see the whole picture as opposed to part of it. That's all.
Thank you. Jackie?
Well, I appreciate what Leon is saying, and this year we seem to have a little bit more money than other years. And so my suggestion is to have this person or persons work this year and on a not to exceed, beyond this year, and evaluate them at the end of the year. Or evaluate the position at the end of the year to see if we continue to need that position or how effective that position is.
Great, thank you. Renee, can I just ask a question? So when we have salary savings from retirement or people resigning, and like, we don't outline that in our budgetary process, right? Those salary savings are just getting absorbed in the total number.
So there was one
Okay.
payment, so I adjusted that.
But-
Typically what I do is I scale it back in the middle of the road.
Yep.
So it typically ends up being a savings, but then we're always running the risk of the replacement ends up being somebody
Particularly
with.
depending what their
you know,
specialty is,
That you may have
you
someone
may,
higher. in
there
the-
may not be a savings at all.
I guess my question is that, but the reason I'm asking the question is, to me, like, we're looking at like one number of adding a new staff member, but like that staff member, like, if we were truly looking at salaries, like, that may be partially funded somewhere in the budget by the salary state, like, we're not outlining each line item for discussion about what we're saving next year, and what we're looking at individual, like, things that Renee has decided is meaningful.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you highlights, like,
So-
assuming all of the staffing that
Right,
is in place.
in one place. So I appreciate, but I also just think it's probably a bigger conversation. So, were there other discussion items? I know you had more, Leon. I wanted to make sure that we had everybody had an opportunity to ask questions. Brandon, you have questions?
Something after in response to Jackie's point.
Sure.
Yeah, that was one of the alternatives.
Fran
that-
can go first. I just wanted to say
I'll
something.
have something to say at the end.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate, Jackie's point, and, my only concern, about doing that is, I think that we might handcuff ourselves a little bit and limit the candidates that we might get to apply for the job, knowing that it's only a 1 year, potentially a 1 year position. That would be my only hesitation or concern with that. That's all.
And that's exactly, that plays right into what I'm saying. Once we get it there, we're stuck with it, but, for the-
What is the educational requirement for that position? Are they teacher, like, what is?
That, you may have to help me with that one, Renee.
I just wonder why this, I get it, it's at $98,000.
I have it in as a $60,000 base salary with full benefits.
That includes the benefits?
So I assume we would have to, if approved, we have to draft up job description and, look at what credentials we're looking for that person.
Yeah, it's a
That
professional.
salary is professional salary for other positions that we have that are coordinators.
I had some questions. Where it says, plywood window replacement. Does that mean we're taking the plywood out and putting glass in?
Yes.
Hopefully not the other way, right?
Correct. Holly said there's just sort of like throwing heat out the windows
Okay.
because there's no
That was
insulation.
one of her first, on her first tour of the high school, that was one of her immediate points, that the energy loss with those plywood panels.
What's the bathroom updates?
So,
It's been a priority of your principal since I think he's been.
yeah, I think the first month I was there, I had, contingent of students take me on a tour of every bathroom in the building. Every bathroom in the building. And the students actually took the time to make a spreadsheet for Tony, which they handed over and said, missing mirror, needs a new commode, doors don't hinge. And so what Tony has put us on is a schedule for replacement. So the men's bathroom off of the cafeteria has been replaced. It's a modular replacement. So they go in and they replace all the walls, the doors, and they look very nice. And you probably remember those bathrooms. So they've taken down mason walls where they need to and reconfigured some plumbing, but it's cleaned up nicely. And he has a schedule to replace a series of them as he moves along. So materials is what hung us up this year, but they seem to be back on track.
All right, gate receipts appear to be down, but it looks to me like we have a hell of a crowd.
I reduced that for the conversation that was about students not having to pay for admittance into games.
They also reference, didn't the athletic director reference not charging for the use of the old SVC fields?
Right, I mean, we would see a decline because, yeah, we don't have those games playing on Spinelli, but there was conversation and, you know, it's a small amount of money that I think potentially could go a long way with, you know, student support.
Do we still have student identification cards?
We do.
Shouldn't they be showing that when they check in so that all kind of people don't walk in?
We do, yes. I have to tell you though, the folks I've seen when I've been collecting tickets are staff, so they know a whole lot of the kids as they're coming in. We even had a workaround too for kids who might have misplaced it. They can go and see the athletic office during the day and get a ticket to walk in, but for the most part, yes, kids have IDs.
Yeah, I would wonder about that, who you'd get on a 1-year deal on that. That does seem like that'd be a tough one to fill if I'm only gonna be there for a year.
It just potentially limits your
I mean,
candidates.
understand that in effect, they are a 1-year employee, you know, because it's renewed, subject to evaluation, just like every employee. So it's, you know, they're not a member of the bargaining unit, so it's not that they get professional status or anything like that. You're effectively an employee at will, with year renewal.
But if that was the case, would we have to, I would assume if you know, if it's any different approach than a normal contract, I would assume we would have to tell the individual, like, you know,
It's a
the board
non-union
approves
position.
this for a year.
Yeah, they'll have a contract, but it's a non-union position.
And that would need to be evaluated, and that's, I mean, this ain't the right place to be talking about. This is budget, but my God. How can we determine whether the position is gonna be liable for next year and the next year if we don't get the real type of evaluation to make sure that the board is sound and ready to follow behind you on that?
I mean,
This ain't the right place.
I personally disagree. I mean, I think that we have an HR professional on staff. We have, I mean, these are the roles that, you know, those are their responsibilities to
That's
do.
not what I'm asking. Like principal though, I just want to assure you, we're responsible to Mr. Colkeen to hand in a evaluation to everybody that's supposed to be evaluated. So, I mean, that would be.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Are there other questions?
Dave mentioned something about the gate receipt. Did we need to okay that or let's stop having students pay? I know I heard it, but, and it just automatically drops the fee for all of the students to come to activities. Is that what we're doing now?
That's what we're doing this year.
Oh, you had, I didn't know that it had actually been implemented. I just had heard people talking about like, why are we charging kids?
But that's just high school kids. We still
Yes.
charge, or,
And that is
little
only
kids
since
can't come
January
without a
1st.
parent, right?
I'm sorry?
Little, younger kids can't come without a parent.
It's just high school students. We felt it would be a way to encourage them to attend and support their fellow students.
To your point, and I don't know whether we need to do that, but it sounds like it's in motion, so.
No, it was a good
Yeah,
idea.
it's a good question, yeah.
It doesn't need to be, nobody knew it was gonna happen,
That
that's
wouldn't
all.
be, that wouldn't be at the budget board.
Right, it wouldn't be here
Finance
either,
anyways,
yeah.
right?
No,
So,
that's
yeah.
all.
Are there other questions?
Would that also apply to dramas and band students come in for nothing, like they would in the athletic event?
For concerts, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to test that theory because I got British Invasion this weekend and then I've got another play coming, so. I would be open to that to encourage kids, but I want to talk to Lynn first because her gig is a little more tied to what she needs.
The drama club does it by donation, so it's not like a charge. So would that be different?
It's different for different, if you went to see Chicago, you had to buy a ticket, but if you go to see the Pops concert, you are correct, they put the hat out and you can make a donation for it. It differs by performance.
So why can't we do that for everything?
I think there's significant costs associated with different productions, and she uses that to offset those costs.
Does the, I mean, this is like, I feel like we're this, but I feel like I have to ask it, is the drama department or the drama club funded at an equivalent level as say football or soccer?
We had a small increase for drama supplies, both at the middle and high school level, I think is what I'll ask for.
So like
You asked for.
I did ask for,
Equivalent.
a budget line for the drama club.
Okay, so you think it's like, I know that some sports cost more, but like for per pupil, like are we spending more money per pupil?
I wouldn't say we're doing it through your general fund. I think she's doing it through the money that she's generating through the ticket sales.
Do we fund football and soccer and things through the general fund?
But some is done through fundraising, you have to buy uniforms or.
I mean, personally,
It doesn't sound like it's
funding
equitable.
the general fund for both.
I think it's more of a conversation of opportunity. I got approached right before the holiday break by supporters of athletics that said, hey, is there a way that we could waive fees and try to increase student attendance? You're really talking about January, February, because we don't, and I would be happy to go back to Lynn and the music department and say, are you okay with us talking about also inviting students without?
I'm not questioning because I want, like I'm questioning what
No,
you
no,
said,
it's a
it's
good
more like
question.
out of a budgetary standpoint, like I feel like, and I think I heard you say it, like the drama, like the shows they put on are equivalent to a varsity, like a varsity performance, and I just wanna make sure that our taxpayers are funding that in the same way that we're funding other
Absolutely.
performances. So that was more my question.
Yeah, and the word is equitable. I mean, if you have to charge people to go see a drama series because of the, I know it costs money to buy the scripts, et cetera, and the copyrights, whatever. But if you don't charge then the same people for gate receipts, then it's not equitable. You have to treat both areas the same way. And my suggestion is go by donations only and have the school pick up the rest of it in general funds.
This may be a larger, broader conversation, I mean,
Yeah,
for,
that's what I'm saying.
for a board or like, but.
Nor do we have all the information we need.
Correct, yeah, we don't have to make, like,
Tonight.
but it is something,
Speculating.
yeah, no, it's fine, it's just something, it was just something
No,
to
thank you.
note for.
Steph, if it's okay, I just
Yeah.
popped the North Bennington numbers. I
Oh, great.
updated those. So with the North Bennington elementary district blending with Mount Anthony, these are what the rates across the bottom. So North Bennington's still about a 3.5% increase, but their CLA dropped, I want to say like 13%. I mean, it was very significant. Shaftesbury, the ID district did not, so they're looking at a pretty good decrease.
Can you entertain, if no one has what you entertain, like what if we threw, I just wanna know mentally, just so I can, like, what if we moved, and I'm not proposing this, I'm just, what would happen if we put another $1 million in the reserve fund, what would happen? Like, I know if it's tied in your spreadsheet, if it's not tied, then don't worry about it, I just, for my own mental, I'm just curious what the
Can't do
impact.
those numbers in your head.
No, I can't, I try, but But if you can't, if it's too much of an ask, then it's fine, it's more,
Just get it.
I have a clarification question, but sorry.
let me just, or I can wait until you can go ahead while she's doing it.
While she's doing that, I was just looking at SVSU budget and I was trying to look at our budget at Mount Anthony. Where is the AD being paid?
We got MAU.
He's split funded both middle and high school.
Out of our
And it's
budget.
a function,
MAU.
Yeah.
I thought when we hired the person that was gonna be going the central office for that, that's why I was looking. That was my understanding that they were gonna be answering and working and coming out of central office as opposed to because of the split
We've
school.
always been, their evaluation has always been, in, principal, superintendent, that's what will happen this year. So it's an odd arrangement. This is how it was explained to me. The athletic director reports to the superintendent because they work at two different schools, but they also address principals. It's almost like they have three different supervisors, but
And both schools fall under the Mount Anthony budget.
yes.
I just want to make sure you can change anything you want to, Jim. Huh? You can fix any of that stuff. It's confusing and somebody keep asking me, I'm looking at whose budget it is in.
It's always been
So
on
forth,
the
and then-
budget, but that's all been involved in the evaluation.
yeah, and Arlington has their own athletic director for their
Right.
high school.
They got their own athletic director at, they got a high school, middle school combination. They don't have more than one, do they? But
They have a part-time, one part-time.
it's one part-time person that they have.
Much smaller entity.
Do you remember, Renee, or do you have, were you able to? So, just entertain me. So if we moved $1 million into the reserve fund to plan for, like, to use if we needed for future, like, variances, we still would be under with the exception of Woodford and North Bennington?
Your ed spending for equalized people goes up
To just over the
over
threshold,
the threshold, but
but that,
again, if I drop this to
Yeah.
15,000,
yeah,
we've
we've shown what that looks like.
well, with or without the million.
Leave the $1 million in just for a second. Sorry. Just- Okay, so we're back into,
Plus,
right, I mean, this is me personally, I'm not going to, I don't believe that we can operate, like, while costs are rising and healthcare is rising, that we can continue to operate at like equal or less, right? And I mean, we can continue to evaluate things to make sure that we're using the funds appropriately, but I shouldn't have the expectation that I'm gonna continually lower the tax rate. I mean, I'm asking about the million only because I also find that for people, particularly in fixed or lower income, like, fluctuations in tax rates is really confusing and painful for people. So being able to plan appropriately so that we could level the tax rates if there was a big increase next year is what I was asking about. I'm not suggesting that's what we do. If you remove the $1 million, Renee, and you left it at the 15, the state came in at the
They
15,000.
all become increases except for council and
Okay.
taxpayer ID. The other thing is, I don't know what's happening in other municipalities, but I suspect that they're grappling with budgetary increases too, so we only have control over like the school portion, right? But all of our taxpayers are gonna be looking at their municipal portion of their tax bills too, so I mean, I can't speak for what other
Right, I mean-
municipalities are looking at for tax increases.
I know that we're getting close to, I wanna, are there other comments? I know Fran, you had,
Jessi's got her hand.
Oh, sorry. Jackie, you
Well, the question I'd like to ask is, and you might not know this answer without doing some other things. Okay, if we take the SVSU budget, the elementary budget, and the MAU budget, does that come out even funded?
You mean like equivalent to the prior year or?
No, I meant if, okay, so if we add the three schools together, the three systems together, the SVSU, the elementary and the MAU together, what does the taxpayer have to pay? In other words, how, on
That's what you're
$100,
That's
what?
what she's seeing. It's the
That's what
bottom
you're
three
seeing, and
rows.
That's what's on that tax impact sheet.
Right. So when you set aside another million, that kind of reverses everything. And I think the taxpayer needs, correct, at this time, the taxpayer needs to have their taxes lowered. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that opinion. I'm just, speaking from experience doing tax returns and watching property tax rebates come through, like the fluctuations are real when we don't look a little bit beyond the future. And I understand, I personally think I will go with what Renee's recommendations are, but that's why I'm asking about it. So, Fran.
We didn't have the CLA working against us this year.
Yeah,
I would say we'd probably be in a different, we might be able to gamble with the homestead yield a little bit and still feel comfortable with it, but I just think there's too many factors potentially working against
That's
us
fine.
right now.
right, Fran, yeah.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound stupid, but that's fine. The state of Vermont has a lot of programs that it pays for, to me, which is really asinine. And I'll give you an example of some. They want to know what the effect of cocaine does to the Japanese quail. And the country spends millions of dollars on this nonsense. Spend millions of dollars to find out why people fall in love. I mean, these are millions of dollars, and I'm saying that because we have two principals sitting here. They need this and they need that, and I get it, and I do agree. But there's gonna come a thing where you either gotta call your senator or your congressman or somebody to stop the foolishness, because we need that money in our schools. So I just throw that out there. I mean, this is gonna continue. Yeah, the budget's gonna keep going. Eventually, the people will vote these budgets down. And that's even another side of a coin that you don't want to go to. So, while that sounds, I don't know how you change that, of the monies that is spent on foolishness. Well, it's my opinion, I think it's foolish. But I think that's what it is.
So
Anyway.
we're not researching quails in schools right now. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Do you need
Are
a?
you sure,
you need
Tim,
a-
that's not in the curriculum?
There's no cocaine.
So typically what has happened is that the committee forms a consensus and then makes a recommendation to the full board. So we do have it as an agenda item
Okay,
on the full board
On the full
meeting
board
tonight. If there's a consensus that the committee wants to make a recommendation.
at this point, I'll take a motion if someone wants to make it and we can see that.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have to vote in the committee? I don't know, or is it, I mean, there's four of us. It's okay.
Whatever.
So there's, I mean, I think it's the four of us that have to.
That's all right. That's why I'm grappling with how to manage this so that once I go past this point, the things that I'm saying need to be looked into before we put these people in a position. It's not tied here, but then I hear later on that, well, you guys put in the budget.
That's gonna happen at the board meeting. At your full board meeting, there'd be a nomination form that would come before the board before anyone's even gonna be hired.
I understand the
discussion
process,
then.
Jim. I understand it.
And are you
And I'm
uncomfortable
trying,
with the process?
I'm trying to head off some of that. I understand all that stuff, and that's all I'm trying to make sure of. And so that's what my point is, but I'm not trying to hold up, but I'm trying to make sure I understand things.
Was there something else that you requested? Are you requesting to see? Because I know last time you said, you know, I really want to see some.
We're gonna start another meeting.
That was sort of not good.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, there's a motion. Is there any discussion? And then I think we have to decide, or, you know, are we deciding to vote bring it to the board as it stands?
recommended.
As recommended, okay. So, is there a discussion? All right, all those in favor? I bring it to the board. Thank you.
Board members present with the exception of one, Richard, and that's, Cory Rich. I want
We
to,
did get the formal resignation from Ron Higgins, so.
oh, you did?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so the superintendent just informed me that we did get the formal resignation from Ron Hicks. Ron Higgins, and I just wanted to say he was a dedicated member while he was able to do that, and I'm sorry to have to help him leave from the Woodford area, so we're missing Pownell, and we're missing Woodford, and we have an absentee person, from Bennington. The, agenda, I'm gonna try to go real fast here and go through things. Again, this is for the public out here to know that the Mount Anthony School District has goals, and that's to ensure that all students achieve a full academic potential based on the academic skills of reading, writing, and computations each year. And that we have a community understand and appreciate and become involved in our schools. The third goal is that we ensure that Mount Anthony Board operate in an effective manner. The agenda for tonight, I'll go through this, and the purpose of going through it is that to add the remove items for the public knowledge at this particular time. If not, I'm not gonna bring on anything new once we start. This meeting is being operated by Zoom and in presence. So we have to do a few things different to recognize the members that are out in the Zoom. The agenda is public comments. We've had times for these things, 5 minutes. Finance, 5 minutes. That's the treasurer's report and FY budget discussion. Consent agenda, 5 minutes. We have superintendent's report, student rep, administrative report, high school, middle school, committees report, Spinelli's bill. We have the chair's report, in which we've added some things tonight to discuss. We have an FYI budget status report, student records, attendance records on. And then we have the agenda items that the superintendent has attached with for the board, the consent agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the items that I just went through for tonight's discussion? Online are there? None? So with that, we'll proceed as indicated according to the budget. According to the agenda. At this particular time, we would like to entertain public comments. We put 5 minutes down. Is there anyone for the public comments? Gentlemen, just here. Okay. No one online?
No one.
Okay, so it's none for public comments. We have finance. Under finance, we have the treasurer's report from December to be posted. What's that? Posted?
haven't seen it, but typically it goes directly to Amy, so.
I didn't see it either.
Isn't it the in the board budget?
No, I didn't see it.
So I would assume she hasn't received it yet.
Yeah, so that December treasurer's report will be next month. So we can remove that. This is no report. There is a fiscal 24 budget discussion and action recommendation for the full board. At this particular time, I would like to have the chair of the finance committee. Oh, well, as a discussion, the budget, well, and we can have anyway, just want to have a discussion about the 24 budget. And they can't have that discussion unless they have a recommendation in terms of what it is they want to do. I don't know who wants to make that recommendation.
I got, the finance committee met and has recommended that the school board vote on the FY 24 budget that Renee has provided. I think the date, Renee's at draft 3, but dated 1/18/23. We're recommending to the board vote for that budget so that it can be warned appropriately for the ballot.
So could we get the figure, the number for the record?
So two things happened with the ballot article for Mount Anthony. So the total budget is $28,629,524. That includes Southwest Tech. Because Southwest Tech is not its own taxing entity, we actually have to phrase the ballot article just strictly on what it is to run Mount Anthony. So that's the bottom line that you have on the budget sheet. So that total is $25,900,824. So the way that it gets phrased is this is the amount you're approving, which with Southwest Tech is X amount of dollars. So we have to do both. So essentially, the total district budget is that $28 million figure, but just to run Mount Anthony High School apart from Southwest Tech is the $25 million.
That's the information now, a motion to the floor for the approval of $28,629. I mean, I'm sorry. You know, we like $28,629,524, and that is without the tech center, which comes to, in terms of the motion, making sure that $25,908,024.
And that's to run MAU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a motion for that.
So moved.
Okay, and because of Robert rules and the size, we'll take the second. Sheila made the motion, Stephanie did a second, but it's not necessary that we have a second. Now we're open for discussion. Are there any discussions concerning this budget? I'll take the Zoom first. We have Jackie and we have Wendy Marie. Any questions?
No questions?
No questions. From the floor here, any questions? Seeing none, hearing none, all in favor of the budget as presented for Mount Anthony, please vote by saying aye. Or raising your hand. Any abstaining? Your hand still up, Jackie?
Yes?
You abstaining?
No.
No. I
Okay. Oh, she voted
voted
for it.
for.
And any nays? That's none. So the ayes have it. Unanimous vote for the budget as presented from Renee. Just want to thank you, Renee, for having to go through all the things for us, and we'll see you in a few months.
March 6th.
Not six, working on next year's budget. So
Are you gonna talk about that in your report? Okay.
So, and thank you everyone for that. Now, next we have the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we had minutes, warrants, retirements, if we had any leave of absence, resignations, and nominations. That agenda was attached. And what I'd like to ask at this particular time is that we can do it all at once, but there are some items on here that I didn't see. And so, and have comments on. So what I want to do is we can have a discussion. We can vote, raise to accept this and then have a discussion. And so we'll move something off. That way we can keep going. So have a motion to accept the Senate agenda as provided with a discussion to follow, which may warrant the removal.
Second.
It's been moved by Fran, second by Dave at this particular time. So there are some questions. I'll let somebody else start first. Who wants that? What? Dave?
On the minutes,
On the minutes.
Chad Gordon talked about putting a plaque on the weight room. You asked me to research that. I think we should accept his offer. For one, the football team's buying the plaque, so it doesn't cost us anything. Number two, Dan Laughlin did an awful lot for our school in football and the weight room. There was a time, I think everything in the weight room came from Green Mountain Racetrack. He also must have been inspired Chad, because Chad played for him. So I think we should be give Chad the go-ahead to put a plaque calling the weight room the Dan Laughlin weight room.
Just, well, you don't have that as an agenda item,
Yeah.
so it should be added. And it's in the minutes of a meeting, but it's not, the motion to do that is not on tonight's agenda, right?
Right. Okay, because I thought that was what you was gonna cover under your report. Well, no, that's through choice.
Yeah.
Along that line. So we'll get that in so I need to put that down as a choice. It's gonna happen, but
Right.
we'll wind up doing that. So we'll make that on my report. Renee is leaving. I had a question.
She's got a,
She has to go
doing
start
Bennington budget meeting is in the next room now.
Okay, before we go on, Fred, we'll get that down and make sure we do it right. I had a question about it on the payroll warrant, check numbers 26,251. I'm not sure what that is for. And I saw it last month and mentioned that, at the last minute, that was a large sum of money going to the name of a person. And I'm saying, I want to know what that's happening is, what, I didn't make that comment. I need to know what's going there, that's all. Can you, if she don't have it and you want to make sure she gives the answer to that next month.
That was the check.
Okay. The check number 26,251, in the amount of $3,211.61. I've just seen those come across several times. in several
We'll try to get into the answer tonight once she starts that other meeting.
Okay, so we'll get an answer for that. So, we had one individual, Hillary Peck, from the middle school, 30 years of retirement. And, would like to have the clerk, put together some information for the science teacher from the middle school that worked 30 years for us. And we had Annie, Shurum, a librarian interventionist at the high school that retired, and I think she had worked 10 years or more.
Ann Schramm?
Yeah.
Yes. She's worn a couple hats, special education and now a reading interventions under title.
Right, and so we're gonna miss these individuals who's along that line. I just didn't know how long she's gonna work. So I would like to have something sent to them for their service to the school district. Dave, you had a question?
Yes, also on the minutes, it said Jim was going to do a follow-up on the fact that we haven't received the assignments for the winter teams.
So I'm told that you did. My fault was that it was there.
Yeah, Paul had said, I remember
Yeah.
Paul had said that he sent it a couple
Yeah.
times, I think.
We've not seen, I'm not seeing them.
No, I don't believe I've seen it.
Nobody, I'm not seeing them. Not at all.
It's not the information I was given, but
Okay, so that was the minutes Dave was doing, we were reading the minutes, and I guess I may have to create a problem, well, we're saying the minutes, if we ask that the minutes be accepted, then, with or without comments, so those were comments that were being addressed to these issues, so that we can go ahead and do that. I didn't see, it says resignations, and I don't think we had any, but the enclosure says, the document says enclosed, and I didn't find anything.
The resignation, then you just, those are retirements.
Those are retirements.
It's probably just like a
it's just
template.
template language.
That's just temporary language, okay, that's just, language. Then the last thing is the field trip at the bottom. It was out there and it says, on that field trip, I read it, and it says, that was like 64 people or something that's supposed to be going, but it was only 2 names listed down for that, and so it doesn't meet the requirements for having the number chaperones. But it did say, a list attached, and I couldn't find the list. Anyway, that's the one from the middle school for Quebec City, Canada.
Oh, that's, that's the foreign language.
Right, it's just that it's 64 people and we're going out of the country and we have a minimum number of chaperones that should be associated with that trip. And
Something's missing there.
something's missing. And so what we want to.
I'm not on the list, but I'm one of them, so it's like, there's a lot,
Yeah.
there's a lot of us.
Of people that are going.
It may be 2 school employees listed on the form. but
Yeah,
That's all.
the rest of us are
That
parents.
trip usually has parents, so they may not have listed parents on the form.
Right, and so we can't, the board want to approve it if it says 8-to-1 ratio. You can approve it, that the trip be formed and worked on, but to bring it before the board to say who we're gonna send out of the country with the kids, we need to know
Yep.
and see it, okay? So,
I'll follow up on that.
all right, I would like to probably have that trip removed from the consent agenda, okay?
In February.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and bring it back, that's all.
Well,
But
but the
the-
trip is.
It's
I don't know
March
the date off
2nd.
the top
It's
of my
March
head.
2nd.
It's March 2nd.
Yeah.
Then we'll make it,
Well, I don't see why you can't approve it tonight. In other words, that we're telling them that it may not be listed there, but they're adequate. I can assure you that there are adequate superintendent.
And I can assure you
chaperones.
too,
You
because
have
I've seen the
parent here, so
list.
there's at least 3.
okay.
I
You're go-
know of at least
But-
yeah.
2 or 3 more, so
Yeah.
Understood.
can we just approve
For
it with?
we can do that for the record.
For next time.
Have them send that list so that it can be documented with the minutes. and
We
so
will
forth.
amend the application for field trip to show all the
Parents.
parents who are the other chaperones.
Right.
There is
Okay.
an
So,
adequate number, but we really shouldn't, for planning purposes, delay it past tonight.
yeah, so everybody is okay with that? Jackie, you okay? Wendy's okay?
I have a question.
Okay,
Do chaperones have to be vetted?
They are,
yes.
they are.
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to make sure that we saw that list.
If,
And
if you know,
understood, even though it took place for that, the public needed to know too that.
if you
who
know,
it is.
if you know some of the names, why don't you put them on that list, that paper right now?
Well, we don't know all of them, so what we'll do is the superintendent's saying, and the principal of the middle school is, and I guess middle school, high school combination of that for a French lesson, Then-
You guys don't have any.
that they will make sure that all those names are presented and sent on so that we'll have them to go with this. And I'm gonna go with that. That'll be part of the record for Richard for the minutes. And so in the sake of moving on, I would like to do that. Is everybody good with that?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
that'll be for me to, there's no high school students involved, that's purely middle school, so that'll be for me to follow up on.
It's
All right.
not an actual correct statement.
Yeah, there are some
There are high school students.
high school kids who didn't get a
get to
COVID
go, yeah.
opportunity.
Right, that's what, you know.
So-
Because I know a handful.
The person that oversees the trip though, at least,
So-
is at the middle school, so I can
Yes.
follow up.
So, okay, so can we, yeah,
I'd like to add one more comment.
one more, Jackie?
One more comment. It's a quick comment. I want to thank you for taking kids on such a great trip too.
Okay, so with that in, we can then, go ahead and accept the consent agenda. I have, it's been moved and it's been, second for that, and so we've had a discussion. And so, all of those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand online.
I,
Any opposed? Any abstention? None, so the ayes have it for the consent agenda with the things that we talked about.
My fond memory, and not a fond memory, of the last time that trip, remember, that was the first trip I think we had to deal with COVID came up this room, because the trip came back and we got a call that the tour guides all tested positive for COVID.
Right. And so it's important, that's why we need to know all of these things, you
Yeah.
know, that's all.
And I have a list,
And Renee stepped back into the room to answer your question you had.
Okay, for this,
there is 19 chaperones going, I just got, I'll get the full list over to.
thank you. All right, so Renee, you had the question as to what that
What was
was. I saw 251 down this month, and that occurred in some song last month at the, and I'm saying, wait a minute, I don't know what service required that payment.
Yeah, I couldn't find it.
Where is that?
26,
I think it's a
251,
payroll.
second page.
26. That warrant goes up, oh, so you're in the current January warrant?
If you can get back to us on
If I recall correctly, it was for one of the folks that's serving as a part-time land steward.
part-time land steward. I know it was something out there, but I don't know what that means or what, who's.
That's for the middle school, to oversee and maintain the middle school garden, greenhouse, that whole space. If that is indeed what the check is for, that's what the land steward does.
Yeah, I didn't realize
What's
that.
the number again? The check number?
26,
251.
251.
Oh, well, that's somebody's payroll check.
That's correct.
Yes. That's just a payroll check. They don't have direct deposit.
So they get that every month and it goes.
Every 2 weeks.
Two-
That's a
every two-
bi-weekly payroll check.
Okay, that was a healthy amount showing up there like that. It was way out of proportion to everybody else's. And so that's what I.
We saw a few of those, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
Less than a hand.
Well, that's what, it stood out.
Okay.
And we want to question things that stand out for us. Okay, thank you. That's the consent agenda. So now we're ready for the superintendent's report. And it's 15 minutes down for that. School choice is going to talk about.
So this is the time of year, and I don't know how well we've done this in the past, but now that we have Arlington in our fold, it's more important that we actually take this. Let me take this vote. It's budget under Vermont statute, and I'll read, it's 16 VSA section 822. It's called Public High School Choice. And on or before February 1st of each year, the Board of a High School District shall define and announce its capacity to accept students under this section. The guidelines, you can limit it, but it's 10% or 40 students. It cannot be any less than 10% of your class or 40 students. I can tell you that last week, Arlington set their cap at 20 students. With the past, literally said 10. I don't know where that number comes from that we would accept. So the limit is how many goes out, which is 10% or 40 students. And I don't think we're at that. And I did ask the principal to tell me we have what, maybe 16 students going out right now?
Yep.
Yep. So we're not over capacity there. And how many do you want to accept? And this board has to vote on that number at this time. So capacity to accept. You can limit the capacity based on class size, grade. Like I said, we've done that 10, accepted 10 in the past, so. I don't know how
US accepted 10 in the past?
That's been the number that we've always unofficially used. I don't know if it's ever been voted on the board before.
Yeah.
Like I said, now with Arlington in the fold, I think that, so how many would we be comfortable accepting? And this is,
How many do we accept now?
down to 10 kid total.
No, now we have 10 that are coming into our district.
No, I don't know how many we actually have coming in. I asked them how many were going out. I didn't ask you to tell me how many we have. Yeah.
Yes, we have 16 students currently at Arlington.
Yeah, and understand, no money transferred with, I will get to that in a minute. There's no money transferred. It's just, and this is statewide. It's not just with us.
And the question, you still have to approve the student leaving. I mean, they don't just sign up and go.
Well, we can't, they fill out, they have to fill out a form by March 1st application for the following year. We really can't say no to anybody if they want to go and we're under the student count that's going. And there has to be a provision for equity if there is more, which is a lottery if there's more. So Arlington would conduct a lottery if more than 20 students wanted to go there. But we can't, this is state statute. We can't restrict somebody from going.
And what about then the other school, Burton? Will they fall under that same statute as well? And for our students to go there?
Well, they're private, right?
Right, I want to ask the question to make sure I understand that, I mean, I knew we were doing it and I didn't know what the restriction was.
I do not know if they accept it. So what I'm asking tonight is, I don't know if Burton accepts students under high school tuition. I don't know if this applies to a semi-public school. I know it does to public schools. But what we're setting is how many are we willing to accept?
So, you want to do half of it?
Well, I would take the
I
recommendation.
mean, that's what I'm talking about
What's
here.
the impact?
That's what I'm asking.
Capacity, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Class size?
But because we're hearing it right now, we have to make a decision and we're asking them, you take a rough number, you can either keep it the same or do whatever you think, right?
I think you could match what Arlington is going to do and say that you would accept up to 20 students. I don't think you're going to hit that number.
If that's okay with you, Mr. Payne?
That's all right.
Okay, Dave have a question.
When people go to MSJ and Rice, parochial schools,
I do not know. We're accepting who we will accept. I don't know who they accept. I suspect maybe no, because they're not, this affects public high school. So I don't, you can go back and it says high school, the definition is high school is a public school or the portion of a public school that offers grades 9 through 12. It doesn't, I can ask that question and get back to you with an answer, but that's not what I understand why we're curious about that, but that's not what we're setting tonight. We're saying how many we will take.
Right, and that can go to the education committee, something later on to help. So the number that the superintendent and Mr. Payne gave a nod on was 20 that we're willing to live with. Can we have a motion for that? Susan made the motion, Shayla the second. Any other comments or questions concerning that?
I'm comfortable with that, especially because
Okay.
Arlington's a smaller school than us, and if
Right.
they're taking 20, I'm assuming
Yeah.
that we have
Is
the
that a-
capacity to take 20.
That's your comment?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right,
Ask for a comment.
online,
We
any,
do see that, like, we have students who want to come, they want the opportunities that are a bigger school.
right,
Just like Arlington, opportunity of a smaller school. So it's worked without controversy in the past, but it's gotten a little heightened now that Arlington is part of us.
Makes sense.
okay, so that's the discussion. And I'm prepared to have the vote, and all in favor of the motion to accept 20 students from ascending school, Arlington in this case.
Yeah.
Raise your hand. Ayes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any nays? No. The ayes have it. Thank you, Superintendent.
The second part of this school choice thing, I told Arlington that I would bring it back to this board. It will refer to the finance committee. They would like to entertain discussions about transfer of funds to follow students. And they're seeing this as, revenue, but there is no money under the law, but there's nothing that prevents both schools from reaching an agreement, portion of tuition, what, I did refer to our attorney on whether there's possibility that the receiving school gets to count that student in their count. As of tonight, I don't have a response back from Dina on that. She's doing some research on it, but it probably should be a future agenda item. We owe an answer to Arlington, even if it's no, we're not interested in, paying to send our students or, exchanging money with it. Because under the provision, it's not there, but.
And I mean, historically, we've had, for years, we've had students go to Arlington, our students come to us,
Right.
but we've never been under the same umbrella before.
Right.
So that's.
And we haven't exchanged funds in the
We have
past.
not exchanged funds, but they asked at their meeting last week, and I said I would bring it back to you.
Right. And so, I would have to say, along that line, because not only are they trying to get money to follow the student, I know what you got there, the technical centers are really heavy on that right now. And the state is, and education all talking about having money follow the students to the technical center. And I think they might have got that. But right now, I would urge you probably to vote no. And then we'll have a discussion for that coming up for the next year.
The technical center seems to have a vehicle in place to transfer funds that follow students, right? I mean, that's done through the FTE counting. It sounds like we have, like, our assessments done under SVSU based on student counts. I mean, and perhaps Arlington wants
Yeah.
less or more assessment.
Yeah, I said, let's get out of budget season, budget passed, and then a finance committee meeting, this on the agenda. There's director of finance there to try to give us a snapshot of what the impact would be and whether this is even possible. And then we give Arlington, finance committee comes back to a full board, makes a recommendation, board takes a vote, we tell Arlington what it was.
So
We did our due diligence to
we
investigate.
need to make sure that there's a motion to deny to have funds transferred from Mount Anthony to follow the students at this time.
What it's.
Why do we need to
Is
make
that
a motion?
Because we don't know, we don't do it now.
We don't do it now.
Okay, I thought you was asking.
No, just, I said I'd bring it back to the, so I'm asking the finance committee to consider it in the future.
Okay, it's just an FYI, and then from the superintendent, you can put that down on the agenda for finance or something along that line. And the education and impact on that problem.
And then I have one more item for the board to consider this evening, and that is the location of our floor meeting, which will be Monday, March 6th. SU and the Union Elementary District are considering holding it here because they would like the remote option as well as just so that people can join remotely, the public as well as board members. The Union Elementary Board voted last night to authorize the chair to make the final decision based on what MAU decides tonight. Spoke to the town, if we went back to the firehouse with them, the ability for the public to join remotely is not there. And because of how spread out our districts are, not just limited to Bennington, some of the board members held keeping that remote option as possible. CAT TV expressed some concern about being able to broadcast live if it's in 2 locations, but the town portion of that evening would not begin until 7 o'clock. So as long, and as you can see, CAT TV is here with us tonight, but they're not physically here, so that's not the problem. So we would just have to be done well in advance for 7 o'clock for anybody who wanted to be at both locations. So I'm asking, what is the wish of the board? Do you want to go back to what we did pre-COVID and going back jointly at the fire station with the understanding that not all the other boards might join you?
What you're saying is the other boards were waiting for us to give the okay for them to come and use this.
So the situation is because with SVSU ED, this is their first time they're doing it potentially in person. So the discussion is because they came together, we used to do it when it was BSD and panel, everybody had their own town meeting. So this,
Shaftesbury up in Shaftesbury.
Shaftesbury's would be in Shaftesbury, panels would be in panel, BSD would be in the firehouse. In this situation, we came together right before COVID. So then the first year we did it, actually, we were gonna rotate. So the first year we decided we were gonna do it at the firehouse, and then the second year we were gonna make a decision to do it at panel, blah, blah, blah. But now with our new technology and those options, they would like the option to be able to allow panel people to go virtually and not have to come up to the firehouse.
That was part of the discussion, which I had not come to yet, which I was going to get to in terms of just saying that what we want to do is find out if we're going to do it, in which I would urge you to be positive and want to do it. And we need to have the vote to do that too, here or just.
Yeah, the board's vote where you want to have the location for your floor meeting.
Right, and then so if you move that and then we can have the discussion for the rationale behind it.
Mine was not more discussion of it, mine is giving you the background, which
Okay.
is, I'm a part of that board.
Okay.
So I'm supporting what Jim was presenting.
Thank you. So, with that, we can move to.
Jackie has her hand up.
Jackie?
You unmute Jackie.
Does that mean if I'm on the Southwest Tech Board, I'd have to bilocate?
Probably, me too, and Fran, yes. We'll have to go from building to building, but I'm willing to do that.
Right, you have the Zoom option to join this meeting remotely and then go to the fire station or come physically. It's not far from here.
Well, I know that. What I don't know is the timing.
We
would
generally
be,
set that after.
right, would do it before, I spoke to the town manager this morning. He said that theirs kicks off at 7 o'clock. As long as, if we can be done by 6:30, that would give people a half an hour to get there.
Oh, that's okay then.
So,
But when does the Southwest Tech one begin?
I don't know.
Historically stack them 15-minute
Yeah, 15
intervals
minutes.
and like starting
Yes,
at.
I don't think I can make it into 2 places in 15 minutes.
You can with the remote option, you could be in.
Well, if Southwest Tech were there, then I don't have a problem.
I don't
But
know
if
if
it's-
Southwest Tech is doing remote or not. I don't know what they're doing.
you can afford to miss one, if you want to. So, what's the board wishes? Is there any more of the discussion or any background to be?
I think we should allow remote, so it gives access and to more people to come to our meeting.
Right, so why don't we just have the vote, yes? Wendy has some?
You're on mute.
I was just agreeing and saying that, we should allow more access to folks for, remote options. After all, Bennington County has one of the highest testing positive situations right now for COVID. And though we'd like to think it's over, it really isn't. So this is still an option for folks to be online, and I think we should give it to them.
Thank you. So why don't we go ahead and vote? If everybody's in favor, we'll just.
Need a motion?
A motion, okay.
I so moved.
Susan
Second.
and Sharon. All in favor of the motion to make this the host location for that? Just raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Two abstaining, Jackie and Dave. Rex, and we'll do some running around. Anything else, Superintendent?
No, that's it.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda, I don't know what I'm doing, is student rep.
No student rep.
None at this time. Then I'll go to the administrative report. High school is first, Mr. Payne.
Just two things. We had the end of semester one on Tuesday, dropped in between the holiday and the workday. And that means that semester two will be starting tomorrow, so students will be into new classes. We anticipate a little bit of sorting out, but excited to get it started. And then the second thing is something we talked a little bit about in the previous meeting. The music department is hosting their British Invasion. This is a concert. Students will be singing songs from the classic British outfits from the 60s and 70s. It should be a lot of fun. It's Saturday at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. Tickets are $10. They have not done this in 3 years, I think, because of the COVID. So
This Saturday?
this Saturday at 7 o'clock. It should be a lot of fun, and I encourage folks, if you're looking for something to do, come on out. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for high school principal, Mr. Payne? Anyone online have any questions? No, thank you. Middle school.
I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to come in under that minute.
He was on there a minute.
All right, so I'm happy to, well, as the board knows, I've successfully, I believe we're good to go on that now. That's been approved. I've got the nomination for 2 teachers that I have worked to fill for a 7th grade science teacher and an 8th grade math teacher. So that's really exciting. I'm really happy to have them in these positions. I'm still looking for a 6th grade math teacher, although the position is covered with a teacher right now who is an interventionist, who it would really benefit kids to get that teacher back in the role of interventionist. But I think that at this point, that may be a next year project. However, stay committed to looking for candidates regardless, and I still have a literacy coach / literacy specialist position open. I have some people helping out with those roles, I should say. But it's it's a Band-Aid until I can have the position back, find someone to fill the position. We're doing our MAP testing, which we do 3 times a year. Fall, winter, spring. We have our winter tests coming up. We're in the window right now for the testing window. On January 31st, we're gonna be taking the math test. On February 2nd, we're taking the English test. I want to thank the data team, or reading, I should say, not English, excuse me, specifically reading. I want to thank the data team at MNUMS. They help a lot with really taking a look at the testing windows and really kind of deciding when the optimal time, will be, time of week, time of day, to make sure that we're giving students the best opportunity to really show what they, show their knowledge, show what they know. And the test really capitalizes on, this is a test that since I've been hired in the district, I believe it was the first year that we started doing math testing. That was 18 years ago. So this is a longstanding, assessment in the district, and it really gives us a nice measure of growth and progress. So I like that. Because that's what we focus on, growth and progress, which I believe, and Mr. Payne I know believes that would get you to proficiency. I continue to meet with my very active 8th grade student council, which is a pleasure. I really enjoy starting my day with those students on the days that I meet with them. We meet, I would say, at least monthly, if not a couple times a month. Right now, they're currently, they have organized a dodgeball tournament, which is taking place this Friday after school, starting at 2:30 approximately. They've also come up with a good idea to generate ideas. They passed out, these snowflake templates with the winter theme to advisories. They've asked teachers and students to give input on what kinds of change and what kinds of things they'd like to see 8th grade student council working on in the school. So at my next meeting with them, I'm looking forward to reviewing some of those ideas and helping support them into pursuing some of those things. I have 2 events that are coming up, and this is kind of for long-term planners because they're not happening right now, but we're starting the planning process for our Patriot Celebration Day, which is a longstanding tradition at the middle school. It supports, team building activities for all students. It's kind of like, what you relate to a field day type of setup, but it really has a very strong focus on community building and team building. We've been surveying staff to see to get ideas about the structure of the day, because we always kind of go back to the drawing board each year and see how we can make improvements. That will be in May, towards the end of May, and I would love to have anybody from the board or anybody from the district office join us and kind of check out what that's all about. It's a pretty neat event at the middle school. And then we also have a winter carnival we haven't held the winter carnival at the middle school for 3 years now, with COVID, because of COVID, I should say. We're going to be hosting a winter carnival on March 18th from 10 to 2. There'll be carnival games, baskets that will be raffled off, and that's a nice fundraiser for teams at the middle school as well. I want to thank Dan Amadon and Christy Whitman for really kind of taking the lead to organize the winter carnival. They've been very helpful with that. And I should also go back and thank Katie Sullivan and a group of teachers who have really taken the lead on organizing the Patriot Celebration Day in the last few years. And then I also just wanted to put a little plug in for the fact that I've started, with the support of Ms. Hannah Green, one of my school counselors, I've started a monthly family communication to all middle school families. This is just an opportunity to kind of highlight some of the good things happening in the middle school. We've organized it into a few different categories. It's kind of like overall, new happenings, what's happening in the middle school, I believe is the title that we had for the first inning. Then there's table talk, some things that you might want to just ask your student about or talk to over the dinner table over another, venue. And then I share the upcoming running date calendar that we have in the school that we share with staff, so families are aware of different events and dates that come up. Obviously, I kind of go through that and look at what's relevant for families versus staff before putting that in there. And this month I just finished it. I got to send that out tomorrow. Send it out in the middle of the middle of the month. And I've highlighted our exploratory blocks in our schedule this year, and that's the portion of what's happening in the middle school and rolls into the table talk. Also connecting it with the Vermont State and District adopted transferable skills of communication, problem solving that are really across the board in all disciplines. And that's what we connect. That's the learning and assessment that we connect the exploratory blocks to. So that's wasn't quite as quick to it as Mr. Payne, but
Thank you. I did forget one thing, and maybe we went in minutes. I mentioned the 10 to 13% drop in enrollment for students, and didn't know whether anybody had a chance to look at that, but that could go to the education committee and so forth along that line. When we look at, we put it on at FYI, but we've been looking at the trends, and I haven't noticed in the budget. I think we took out funds and things for attendance personnel, attendance and truancy, somewhat along that line. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure. Are there anything else or any questions for the middle school, high school? No. Done. Then the next thing we have on is the Spinelli committee report. And then we have the Spinelli here. There's no policy report. Who's going to answer and speak to that?
Speak to the Spinelli field.
Okay.
So Spinelli, we met, we restructured, we have a chair now it's Chad Gordon. We assigned Chris Redding as the other coach position. Shalia will be represented by the committee, a community member, because Dave and I were both as board members. Most of the people were here, were at the meeting. But we feel that it's, not something that we're gonna put to the bond vote for March, only because we just don't have the kind of time. We feel like we need more education to the community. We also decided that we're going to probably do some of our own fundraising, but nothing has set in stone yet. But our number one task was to come up with a list of questions so that we could put out a survey to the community to find out what exactly the questions that they have are, so we could address those in open forums. So that is our next step, is to get a survey out. Chad will be working directly with Katie West and getting that out through SurveyMonkey or email addresses, and then we'll get back together and look at the results.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Sorry, I did not go to the meeting. So in that survey, are you gonna start from scratch and not make the assumption that people voted it down based on the budget?
We're gonna ask them, what were the, do you think that Chad asked everybody at the meeting,
Yeah.
submit a few questions, he'll put together the survey with everybody. It was, not how you voted, but do you think Spinelli Field needs to be an upgrade, is it just track or the field or the lights or whatever, and then Chad.
Okay, so we're not gonna self-cut or something,
No.
because that's sort of
No.
like we were in the last one,
No.
so that's good. Okay.
So, any other
Any
questions?
other questions?
Just want to make sure that we take the time to answer all the questions and get it right.
Well, we plan on hosting more than one open meeting. We're thinking about 3 or 4 and starting inside and then actually moving out onto Spinelli when the weather is nicer and allowing people to come, everyone to come.
There was some questions about minutes, is that what?
Well, Richard was there.
It's okay, so he took the
There
minute
doesn't- yeah.
because we were concerned, if we having something operating this big, we want to make sure we have,
TV was there too.
well, we still want to have minutes so that we can have a record of what it is that, all the questions that you're asking. And from that, you can have something to work off of. So I don't think it's a lot of money to have Richard be present to help prepare the information so that you have a background to go off of and use that information so that we can go forward. Thank
Ideally,
you.
it'd be nice to have that meeting right after a big rainstorm.
Ideally, yeah.
Going on the fields, that is.
Yeah, or during one.
Yeah, here.
Chair, Wendy Marie, have a question?
Hi, yeah, I had a question that I submitted to the Spinelli Field and they said they'd get back to me. Will they just get back to me after the survey is complete?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you send it to me and you send it to
No,
Susan.
yeah,
So,
and we did discuss that. And we were reaching out to Senator Sears and
Champagne.
Campion.
Cool.
Waiting for, I did reach out to them, waiting for a 100% response.
Okay, cool,
And
thank you.
that's the kind of information will be documented, that this question was asked, you followed up and you got that, and then we're not gonna be going back over that anymore. We're gonna eliminate all the things one at a time so we can go forward. Okay, that's what we wanna do. Thank you for the Spinelli update, and now it comes time to me, it's the chair's report. And I wanna try to make this as painless as possible because I get a lot of strange looks at me when it comes to the chair's report. I'm trying real hard to work to do the things that a school board chair should be doing. And that's to ensure that Mount Anthony School Board operated in an effective manner. And so as your chair, I've attended the Vermont School Board Association training meetings. I did 2 this month. One on board chair review, and they online, they hold them at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So for me, I also did Governor's Tip, was a speaker from California, David Campbell. And I actually won a prize. I won a copy of his book, The Governor's Core for School Board Superintendent and School Working Together. It's around $38. And so that book I was one of the winners of the copy of that book. In that meeting that we talked about was covered 3 realities of government. governance. All of you in what I should do first, before I give you those realities, I had put down board members' background. And what I'd like to do is just go around real quick to have you give me a couple of things for everybody just to hear something. I can start out with myself if you want to, and then you know what I'm talking about. And then once we get done, I'll go into the other governance things real quick. Being Leon Johnson, I was a double master, both chemistry and biology degree, and spent 36 years as a quality engineer. And so my job is to make sure I look at blueprints, papers, documents, whatever. And I did that for 30-some years, 35, 36 years before I retired. And then after that, I decided I'm an official, and I officiate football, basketball, softball, baseball, all the way up to the Division I level at these colleges and things. And so that structured me for who I am and what I do. And so I wanted everybody to know when I come out where I'm coming from. Who would like to be next?
I guess we'll just go.
Shayla, go ahead.
Shayla Sikora. I have a degree from University of Buffalo, master's from Dowling. I worked for my company now for 20 years in corporate leadership for an insurance company. I have 2 kids in our district. I serve on that elementary level board the last 6 years or so. Been involved in all the PTGs, PTAs, within all the schools. Yes, that's, all I do is my children are my world, and I go to every sporting event under the sun.
Okay. Wanna go?
Sure, I'm right with you. My kids are gone, but we're right through college, so
It's not ending
it's not
anytime.
ending anytime soon. My name is Susan Plaisance. I don't have a master's degree, and I was not a chemist. I'm not a chemist for 36 years. I've been working at the Bennington Banner for the last 17 years. We moved here in 1991 just to have our children and raise our children up here in Vermont instead of Long Island. Yeah, we help each other, see. I worked in local restaurants while my kids were in school. It was easier on us for scheduling purposes. And I was involved in every aspect of my children's lives. Mr. Payne can tell you, we sorry, Chris, didn't work with you. But also followed them around for sporting events, so right up through college. I have 2 children. Michael's 20, he'll be 28 next month. And I think you're the only one in the room that knows them, right, Superintendent? And Carly, who's 23, who just graduated from Russell Sage College, and she is now an RN here at Southern Vermont Hospital. Still lives at home though.
Stephanie Mulligan. I have a bachelor's in accounting from UVM. I took a break, went back, and so I worked in restaurants prior to that. I started my career as an accountant in a public accounting firm out in Latham doing audit of school transportation companies, and ended up having a tax practice here in town. I found that I needed stuff to do during the school year, so Superintendent Culkeen hired me. My job at Southwest Tech, I was there for 6 years as the business manager. All along, I was the assistant treasurer for MAU, SVSU, and the Village of North Bennington, and then ultimately was the treasurer of SVSU SD. And now I am a director of operations for an engineering firm, which basically means finance, HR, and everything else that gets thrown at me. So.
Thank you. You want to go next?
Yeah. Came from the School of Hard Knocks. Been working since I was 11 years old. Been in the collision industry since I was 17. I'm 70 now. Worked with numerous insurance companies, made certain businesses in Vermont and Massachusetts profitable. Had to hire and fire the whole 9 yards. That's basically what I have done in my lifetime.
Well, thank you. Dave.
Dave Frederickson, high school in Westfield, Mass. College at Springfield College. Played football in high school and college. 63, I started teaching in Arlington. 4 years later, I came with the building at Mount Anthony. Phys ed teacher, athletic director for a while, coached basketball. We won 8 state titles. I now run the Vermont Basketball Coaches Association. 81 years old, and I wish there'd be some snow so I could go skiing again.
Well, thank you. How about it, Jackie?
Jackie Kelly. I graduated from Edgewood College in Madison, Wisconsin. Then I graduated from Fordham University, my master's program. My undergraduate was elementary teaching and art, and my master's was in reading and curriculum. And then I took an EDS degree in computer education, and a doctoral degree in curriculum. And I've worked in 3 or 4 states privately in Catholic schools mostly. And then I went overseas. Well, first I went to the Navajo Indian Reservation, taught there for 2 years, and then for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And then I went overseas and worked for military schools for 33 years. I was in Germany and in Okinawa. And I was a reading specialist, a 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade teacher at various years. And I ended my career for 11 years in tech, working for the superintendent of schools on Okinawa, 2 of them, different times. And I was the district technologist for 13 schools.
Well, thank you. How about it, Wendy?
Hi. Well, let's see. I am a retired teacher. I taught from 1989 to 2020. I taught everything from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade economics in public and private schools in the United States and in Seoul, Korea. I was a middle school principal down in the DC area, a district gifted ed coordinator in multiple districts. I've also been a district level staff development facilitator in multiple districts, and the adjunct professor for George Mason University in social justice. And I have 2 children. I love them to pieces. One is a graduate of Vassar. The other one went to art school in Chicago, and they both live in Chicago now. I am embarking on a new chapter in my life. I've just opened a micro bakery called Moonstones, and I am learning all kinds of new things every single day about how to run a business, and hoping people like scones. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Oh, the
That was-
stone lady.
I'm the
She's
scone lady.
Stone lady.
I'm the scone lady.
Oh, yeah, now I know who you are. I didn't put the 2 and 2 together.
I'm the
I
stone lady.
did that because part of Dave Campbell's reality of governance involves just that. What's it? You campaign as an individual, but you serve as a member of a team. Campaign as an individual to be just on the school board, but you serve as an individual of a team. You do not have the authority to fix the problem you campaign to fix. Okay? As an individual, you do not have the authority to fix the problem that you campaign on to fix. The board does. your success as a board member is tied and cannot be disentangled or undone when you're at the board meeting, because we work together symbiotically. I had to put a biological term in there for those guys, because we rely on each other, weak strength and weaknesses to become a whole, and our efforts together in terms of school work to achieve the goal for students and parents and all of the other things that are needed for the school out there in terms of what we should be doing, working as one. I talked about trust, respect, each other's point of view. And you saw that we all came from different things, different parts of the country. We've gone all over the place. But we're all here at the table that we respect one another, trust, and our views for how to achieve and get things done, and then come to the consensus. I just wanted to bring that out. As the board chair, this book, I wanted to point out, everybody should be getting a copy of that. This comes from Susan, the Vermont School Board Association. This is for school boards. You should be getting a copy of this, because they come out monthly, and the words that I put down, I have to be going through some things that I had put down on educational equity for Mount Anthony students. And then I was saying, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Well, what we've gotten in some of these trainings is that not only the things on the agenda is what we should be concerned about for the school, it's the whole school. It's the whole Mount Anthony and the community where we have students coming from that we should be concerned about. We should not know, we should just know the finance. We should know how they're doing. We should be knowing and asking questions about the programs that are in place, how effective they are, and whether we need to be doing something different. These are the kind of questions that you can ask as school board members of the system that we have in place, and check the results along that line. So it's more than just finance. And he said, one of the things they picked on their agenda tends to be the evil that steers everybody into the crisis mode of things, as opposed to having a diverse picture of everything. And so what I've tried to do as a board chair is say, okay, I want somebody else to try to steers on finance, somebody that steers on education, somebody that steers on policy, somebody that just steers on something else, so that we can come together as a whole board to look at the whole picture of what needs to be happening for Mount Anthony and its students as they go through the school system and go out into the community. That's what I sit here at the chair. When somebody says something else, I'm thinking about all those other things that need to be happening out there. So in this book, real quick, and then I'll be getting you out of here. I'm 4 minutes over. I promise you I'll get out. Understanding the job of a school board chair. I'm real religious on trying to make sure I do and learn these things. So when I say something, it's because it's the standard that we should all be building a team, ensuring that the board set annual goals and things along that line. Develop board agendas, and that's with the superintendent, and the most things coming in with me, and I call it edit the superintendent agenda and so forth along that line. Running effective board meetings is one of the other things that said the chair needs to be working on, because if you're going to be a chair someday, you got to be doing that. Working with the community. It says the chair often receives the first communication. I get it all from the people in the community and everywhere else. That's one of the things that are in here. And I mean, I get them. I'm just telling you that. And participate in professional training. That's what it says that the chair should be doing, and all these things to help all of the board members become proficient, and we work to achieve the best educational possible for the students in the Mount Anthony School District, that we make sure that we frequently look at our money and the process to be successful out here, because the students that we educate, the students that we have are the ones that go and they come out in this community and you'll see them later in your life. And so we want to do everything we can that way. So it's the whole school that we need to be looking at, asking questions, looking at data, operations, costs, student data, and the students after they leave the school, what are they doing? What did we do a good job with them? These are a bunch of the things. So with that, I have that's the ends of the chair's report. We have an FYI budget status report. Those 56 pages. I looked at that, $6,749,48, 64 cents, $614.57. We did not have a enrollment posted for January online this time. So that concludes this school board meeting. Have a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask a question?
John,
Are you planning a February meeting? The Union Elementary District is not, the issue is not, because traditionally you don't, because of how many budget meetings you've had in January. And the budget's set, and then reorganized March, but it's up to this board to decide whether you're going to meet in February or not. I don't believe it did last February.
so let's look here. So we didn't want to know, we plan on meeting in February. It would have been February 15th. And do you think we can skip a meeting?
Is this the only field visit?
I mean, you may have special,
I mean, yeah.
you may have subcommittee meetings, but I don't know if you need a full board meeting. Yeah.
So, in online, that's your cat you're rubbing. So the feeling is that why don't we vote to not have a regular Mount Anthony School Board meeting unless there's an emergency in February, because of the vote and other things prepared for along that line, and that'll be no meeting on February the 15th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded and so forth. All in favor? Ayes. Anybody against it? Saying no, the ayes have it. Is there anything else to come before this board tonight? Jackie, you saying?
Yes, will somebody be contacting Mike Lawler to see if he could be, if the Southwest Tech could be incorporated within the same meeting for,
I'll be happy to do that.
thank you.
The superintendent said he would be happy to do that. Thank you. All right, I will see you in, when I see you.
Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.